All right. I am going to record this for the sake of posterity. You know, I'm sure it will be invaluable in years to come. If anyone out there still has their mic unmuted, if you could just mute your mic for the sake of background noise. And then, of course, if you do have something to add or want to chime in, feel free to unmute at any time. That'd be great. Okay. Everybody see my screen okay, I hope. I know you can't all respond, but hopefully you're able to see the screen. Sorry, just looking for something a little bit light humored to start this out with. So we're moving forward with this BIM thing, and we'll get there, guys. We'll get there together. So anyway, let's just we're trying to call out from underneath it. All right. So today we are going to the purpose of the day is to announce and give a demo for a new content management solution for all of our Revit content. Over time, I think we're going to be able to utilize it for additional content beyond Revit, but for right now, it's strictly Revit. Hey guys, I'm still picking up quite a bit of background noise. I'm not sure, maybe off one of the phone calls or something. If it's possible to mute those lines, that'd be great. Thanks. All right. So we're releasing a new content management solution. In addition to that, there's a couple update items I wanted to give and some general information I wanted to pass out. So first things first, if you've collected together in a conference room, if there's a group of you, please send around a sign-up sheet for those who are in attendance, and just either scan or take a quick picture of that and send it over to me after the meeting. For those of you who are joining remotely from your own workstations, just shoot me a quick email after the meeting or even right now that you were online, that you caught this. Not looking to penalize anyone who's not able to be here on this call. What I want to be able to do is go back through the list of attendees and then set up a follow-up demo for those who did miss. Like I mentioned in my original email, this is a pretty major update to our workflow and to the way we're going to be doing things moving forward, and I just want to make sure we get everybody in the group. So if you could shoot me that information, that would be very helpful in scheduling a follow-up for this. Thanks. Next item that I wanted to cover is just a general, some general information about how we get Revit help. So there's been a number of new people that have joined us. There's been some changes that have taken place over the course of the last year or so, and an update for even those who've been here longer. It probably could be helpful. So just as a general overview, I wanted to explain the situation to everybody. So we have our Revit committee. If you go to the CPL intranet page to Revit support, you're going to see the committee listed there. There's about 20 or so members in the committee. Inside of that committee, there's a core group of 7 individuals, including myself, who work to develop standards, workflows, fix issues in the templates, and that kind of thing. And then, of course, there's the BIM management team, which currently is myself. So if you're looking for general knowledge, workflows, how CPL does things, what are our standards, where do I find something, does anybody know how to do X, you can reach out to the entire Revit committee. So there's a Revit committee email address on the CPL intranet. You can send it to those 20 people. Someone's going to get you that answer pretty fast. It's been pretty incredible how quickly solutions are found. So if you're looking for that kind of information, overarching knowledge, you can reach out to the Revit committee. If you're looking for help on developing something, a family or a workflow, you need maybe there's something broken in the template, those kinds of things. That can go directly to the Revit Core Committee, which again, there's an email address for that. Is an email group you can find in Outlook, Revit Core Committee. If you just send it to the Revit Committee, it's going to get to the Core Committee because they're included. But it just, if you want to shortcut it, you can right to the Revit Committee. And then if you're looking for maybe more like specific training for an individual or a group, if you need some consulting on a specific project, setup, or how we want to maybe put together the so-called BIM team on that, or sort of general BIM consulting, you can reach out directly to me. Now, I just want to say I'm in all three of those email groups. So I most likely will be chiming in and helping out. So I'm not trying to dish work onto anybody else. Just want you to know that if you're trying to get an answer fast, sometimes it's better to source it to a larger group. So that's how Revit Help works. Start with the Revit Committee. As you get more specific, the Revit Core Committee, and even more specific, directly to me. So feel free to use those email groups over the course of your time here, and reach out when you need something. General information. We released the template about 3 months ago, an update to 2018, and there was a couple little issues, some bugs that happened along the way. So for everybody's information, the template has been updated to correct the schedule graphics issues that many of you may have seen if you started a new project since maybe the beginning of the year. So the text inside, the size of the text was wrong. We fixed that. Some of the line weights with in the graphics for the schedules was messed up. We fixed that. We've added back in a plan view for working in the template. So a lot of times we just want to pop open a new project and start drawing a plan. Maybe we're just trying to sketch something out or those things. So we did put in a working plan for level 1. It's phased to the new construction work that will be going on. So that's there just to help kick a project off and get the ball rolling for those who are jumping in and working right from plan. We still recommend following the project setup steps that we outlined in our last release. And the intention there, of course, is to get the team and get all of us thinking about the parameters that affect the whole model. So the things that happen in elevation with your levels and that type of thing. So still relevant here to follow these steps, but if you just need to jump in really quick and start getting something working with the plan, there is one set up under working plans. So that was a popular request, and we thought we should bring that back. So that is there. Kind of moving forward a little bit, you'll see more of this demonstrated, but we've also made some updates to our A400 sheet and some of the details available. So I'll circle back to that when we get into the bulk of the main discussion, and I'll let Ben kind of give some information about what's happened there. Lastly, this is a good time to let you know or remind you, if you're still working in projects for 2016, the general consensus is if there's anything that has not gone out for construction, if you're still working on construction documents, it would be to your benefit most likely to upgrade that project to 2018. There is an issue where your text size is going to get a little bit messed up when you upgrade the project, and we have a very simple fix for that, so it won't cause you any major trauma. So if you are working in 2016, want to get the benefits of 2018, and you have not gone out to construction, reach out to the Revit Core Committee and we can walk you through the steps to upgrade your project painlessly. I say painlessly in quotes, but it'll be pretty painless. So keep that in mind. Lastly, we were running installs for this product release this weekend, and so a number of you have already reached out to IT or myself or others about some errors you got this morning in relation to plugins. So you hadn't seen these messages before, but there's an option there to always load. In general, that's the right response. You can go ahead and load those plugins. In addition, for those of you who haven't already, if you experience some issues through this install process, you may just need to restart your machines. Close out of Revit and restart your machines. So keep that in mind. A restart is recommended. Okay, that is it for general information. So to the bulk of what we're doing today. We're pretty excited to announce that we are moving towards a unified content library for Revit. So in my email to you, we referred to this as the single source of truth. We're trying to make sure that everybody's working from the same content and from the same base of information. And as content is developed or discovered, as each of you finds new and better ways to do things, we want to have a vehicle through which everybody can take advantage of that. So we're trying to discover and share information together. More access, more transparency, more teamwork. So a few months ago, when I came on board, almost a year ago now actually, we announced that we were going to be consolidating our content into a new location on the server. That was the iDrive and the Revit support directory. So we've pulled a bunch of stuff in here off of miscellaneous locations. To date, we've left a lot of that content out there still in its distributed locations, just to kind of ease the transition. As of this meeting, we are going to be removing all legacy content and consolidating it to this one location. So when we originally moved this, we kept to a year format for our library structure, right? And so we had relevant content for 15, 16, and 18 that was here. We also included way back legacy content as well into this archive location. The archive isn't changing. We're going to keep content there. So for the immediate future, if you remember this great family that was back in, holy smokes, 2010, you can go in there and see if you can find it in the library. And if it's still as amazing as you remember, you can send it out to the Revit group for an update and to get that included into the library. We'll talk about that process very soon. We are going to be migrating these three folders, with the exception of 18, into the archive. So you won't see those there any longer. All legacy content will exist inside archive. And then we're going to be putting everything into a new library location. So our Revit library is here. It's going to have all of our content and families from all of our disciplines into one unified location. And then, of course, our templates and title blocks and things like that will live here as well. The good news is you don't need to care about this too much anymore, because after today, you should never have to browse through any kind of file folder structure to find what you need. We're going to show you a better way. So this is just background information, so you know where things live. It's gonna be there. But let's get to what we really want to talk about today. So I have an open project here. Just started it this morning from the newly minted template with all of its updates and changes. As I showed earlier, right, that new working plans view is in here. All right. So some of you already have this. If you don't, if your computer doesn't have this already, IT is working on the installs right now. So they updated as many computers as they could over the weekend, but of course some were turned off or at home in the case of laptops and things like that. So over the course of the next few days, we'll be getting this installed for everybody. And if you don't have it installed, certainly by the end of the week, please reach out directly to Help Desk, copy myself or the Revit committee on that, and we'll get it installed for you. All right, so what are we talking about? There's a new tab, Revit Express Tools. All right, and if you're in 18, you know, it's going to look exactly like this. If it's 16, the buttons look a little bit different, but in general, it's the same. You are going to have everything that's in green here, and this new little button, HIVE. Okay, this stuff is things that you don't want to deal with and pertain specifically to my job and hopefully making your lives easier over time. But you will have this tool that's called the CTC BIM Project Suite, and you'll also have the CTC HIVE Suite. All right, so for now, let's jump into HIVE and talk about what that is. After today's meeting, I'm going to send you all an email. It is going to prompt you to set up an account with HIVE. It's very straightforward. You're going to use your CPL email address, and you're going to just assign yourself a password. Okay, I like to keep it simple, so something I use for work. But in any case, your email address and password. All right, and then you're going to be able to log into this tool. So that's your login screen. All right. My interface is just slightly different than yours, okay, because I have some administrative tools in here to help with the content. But you're going to see this interface with your tool, and you're also going to see all the buttons down to this one, content. So you won't have this last group of buttons because, quite frankly, you don't care about that group of buttons and don't want to mess with it anyway. All right, so what is this about? This is the content browser. This is how you are going to access anything for Revit. Your families, your tags, your schedules, your any kind of standards documents are all going to over time live inside of this interface. All right. Over here on our left, our traditional content browser for Revit, right? To date, you know, if you wanted something, you would come over here to architecture, right? Oh, I got to get into a view here. Let's use our new floor plan. Right, if you wanted something, you know, you might load it from the Components tab, you know, and whatever exists in here, you know, you'd be able to search it and find it and pull it into your project. Of course, you could go to Load Family, right, and find our library location, right, our new library location, and you could browse down through here for whatever elements, you know, you wanted, right, and then you could load those up into your project and dump them in here, all right? So that workflow is what we are eliminating for the most part. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how to use this. So generally speaking, we have our search tab where we search for things. Okay, and you'll notice you can search things by libraries, where things are stored, by tags. This list will grow over time, and you're going to take part in that process. I'll explain shortly. Revit categories, right? Whatever category, you know, exists in Revit, we can search it by that category. And you can, of course, search things just by their name and other pieces of information. So types of content that lives in here. All Revit families live in here. What's called systems families lives in here. So previously, if we wanted to give our team access to, say, a library of different wall types, we would have to save those out into a remote location, or we would have to have an exhaustive list of wall types loaded into our templates. Same with ceilings or floors and that type of content. in addition to systems families, there's also views. So our two-dimensional detail views, where do they live? They now live inside of this content manager. We don't have to browse through old projects. We don't have to browse through some kind of file system or set of PDFs. They all live inside of here. We also, all of your general tags and that kind of stuff. So anything Revit related lives inside of this environment and can be pulled into your project. All right, so let's just talk about how this works. So when you're working in Revit, you're going to want Hive open all the time, okay? I can't push it to a second screen because you wouldn't be able to see what's going on, but when I'm working with it, I push it over into a second screen, all right? So it's always kind of running there as like a palette that I can use. If you're not using it right away, you can always minimize it. This window persists. It's always on top of things. So if I click here inside of Revit, see it grays out, but it's still there. So it always persists on top, and that's kind of why I like it off to the side on another screen. You can, of course, minimize it, all right, and then it truly is hidden, and that's an option. You can always get it back by going down here. It looks like another instance of Revit, so with mine it's collapsed into a single stack, and here's Hive again. All right, so this interface is always there, and you always want it accessible. All right, so in addition to being able to search content from our master library, okay, you can also search the content inside your active project. All right, so if I click on this button, Active Project here, this is going to show me only the content that's loaded into my current project. And so that kind of shortcuts what was going on over here, right? When you load a family and want to see what's in your project, well, you can do it directly from Hive. So you're not only limited to pulling from the library. If you just want another instance of the same door that already exists in your project or something like that, you can also search from inside of your active project. All right, let's talk a little bit about the search and the workflows. So there's a couple things in the interface. I like to pop this window open. It's just a button here, but it lets me see what filters have been applied to my search criteria. So there's just different ways of working. I'm going to be honest with you guys. You're going to have to use this to get comfortable with it. All right, it's not clunky or cumbersome or difficult to use, but it is different than the way we're used to working. It's much more visual way of searching versus the way we've done it traditionally, which is to go through that treed file structure. So there's different ways, and I like to use these filters to keep an eye on what's going on. So of course I could just do a search, right? And our goal as the Revit committee is to make improvements to this content and the way that you find content over time. This tool allows us to look at analytics for search criteria and to make improvements based on that. And there's some really cool tools that we're excited to use to make this better. But for now, what we've done is we've just uploaded our standard library and content, and we haven't made any major changes to naming conventions or even the way it's organized. So it's as good as it's ever been, maybe better, because we have gone through some consolidation and pulled some legacy content into the 2018 library that wasn't there before. But there's room for improvement, so we'll be doing that over time. So a search. Let's just say we want to look for a door, right? That would be like a pretty simple search, right? So I type in door, and it searches my library. Now you see I get door tag, I get a half door, I get some panels, right? There's a lot of, I get door details, right? Sections, okay? And all I really wanted was a door, and this isn't really getting me where I needed to go. So maybe instead of door, right, I would have actually in categories searched for you know, the Revit category of doors, right? So right away there, it limits me to only doors, right? I'm not seeing all the other junk. And then maybe a better search criteria would have been double, right? I was looking for a double door. And so this limited me down to double doors. All right, let's take this another direction. I'm going to look only in the Revit content library because I don't want to look at this out of the box stuff or anything like that. And I'm going to look for some walls. So I'm going to pull that category for walls. All right, and there's just a lot in here, and they're named by our naming convention, okay? Which I'm going to let Ben talk about here in just a second. But what I'm really looking for is like metal stud walls, right? So I've got this filtered down to walls, and with a really quick search, I can get it down to just the metal stud walls. All right, there's still quite a few in here, right? Actually, a lot more than we're used to seeing. All right, but I can drill down from there. And I just want to talk about what's happening. None of these pieces of content actually have the word metal in their name. Nothing in their path. Nothing in the folder they're stored in. There's nothing having to do with metal. So how does this know that I want only metal studs? Well, it's actually kind of cool. If I pop open this other pane and select one of these walls, all right, you can see there's all the parameters affiliated with that wall, all the stuff you would see inside of Revit normally. If I scroll down here to the structural material and the assembly description, right, there's two places where metal appears, right, inside of this. And so what this browser allows us to do is to leverage all the little pieces of data that are inside of Revit and search with that criteria. So there's a lot of different ways for us to organize this and make it easy to find content. And over time, we're going to learn better how to do this, and you're going to help us with that. But I just kind of wanted to demonstrate that that process. All right, so again, just playing around with the interface here a little bit. You know, another example might be that I want a chair, right? And, you know, I get some chairs, I get chair rails, right? That kind of thing. I can also, again, limit this by the category, right? So I don't want anything having to do with chairs. I just want furniture, right? And so that filters it down even farther for me. Trying to keep this high level, guys, so forgive me for not getting too in depth. All right, so let's talk about how this works. All right, so I'm going to use that same search criteria before. All right, and so I have this super ugly chair here. There we go, nice basic one here. All right, I'm actually going to just drag and drop this into Revit. Sorry, I lied, I'm not going to drag and drop it. I'm going to right click on it and say load. And drop it into Revit. All right, so that's how I get the content in there. Just like before, all right? It just comes in preloaded on your mouse and you can put it in there. Let's do the walls. Oops. Now I'm looking at furniture, so there's no right? See, I've filtered this out so only furniture shows. Let's clear those filters. All right, and let's just grab a wall family here. Number 4, metal. Sure. All right, and I can start drawing my walls. So the idea here is we're going to be able to add content over time. We don't have to update templates. We don't have to wait for a major distribution. As we add content, you're going to be able to find it here. The next time you search in Hive, there'll be new walls, there'll be new ceilings, and those kinds of things. So we grow our content over time. Let's talk about a couple other ways to find information. Once you've set up some search criteria here, right? I don't know, for some reason, I'm always building things with metal walls, right? And I want to be able to find them quickly. You can actually save searches, right? And I'll just call this walls dash metal, right? That's my saved search. And now you notice in my Hive, I have access to that search criteria. So if you find yourself always looking for something, right? You know, there's a workflow or whatever. Over time, you can set up save searches so you can quickly get to what you need to get to as well. So there's different ways to do that. I already showed you the active project, right? So of course you can search for content inside of your active project as well, right? So even if, you know, if I've customized some walls for a specific project or something like that, right? They're not in my library yet. I can just pull them from here. All right. There's also this Discover tab. All right. So this is actually quite exhaustive, but if you're really trying to find something specific or want to know, kind of want to learn the software, any parameter that exists in Revit, right, inside of any of our families, inside any of our systems families, inside our templates, those parameters are here and they're searchable. All right, so you can actually come in here, and I don't know, if you're looking for something that has this parameter in it, right? And here you go, right? This is going to drill down to this particular file, actually, and that has that parameter in it and that piece of information. So you can find anything anything that's buried inside of a family can be searched this way. A little bit more technical, but it exists. All right, that is a really quick overview of search, the filters, and how they work. Let's talk about your interaction with things. All right, so if I come back here to my walls, all right, I'm just using it because that's a quick search, but let's say, actually, I don't want to do that. I want to use a little bit better example, right? So let's go to our furniture, and let's do the chairs again. All right, so you're in here. You've been using this content for a couple projects. And this family is just like the best. It works really well. You love it. Everyone should use it. They should be able to find it fast, and they should know that this is the best chair family that they could use. All right. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point. You can actually rate it. All right. So if I select the rating that I want to apply for this, sorry, I have to right click on it. They made a little interface change, and I forgot you can't just directly click on it. So if you right click on your content, rating, right, I can give this thing a 5-star rating, a 3-star rating, right, whatever I want to. And now that appears universally for people to search by, right? So I could search by rating. I can make something a favorite. There you go. See, I clicked on favorites. It's a favorite. So now I can search by my favorites. So I don't know. Maybe right here we go. I'll deep into the gossip a little bit, right? We've got a ton of content for our healthcare group, but we don't have so much content for our K-12 group, right? So the K-12 group is tired of searching for chairs and finding all these chairs that are for a healthcare environment but don't work great in K-12. Well, you could also, there's a couple ways that we can correct that, but one of the things you can do on your end that'll just help you out is just favorite the stuff that works for you. And then when you're searching for chairs, as part of your criteria, you can just say, show me my favorites. So that's an option. You can flag content, right? So if I flag content, then actually the BIM management group, myself, and the Revit committee are going to have access to that information, and we're going to be able to look at flagged content and update it according to what it needs. Let's talk about that a little bit more. When I right-click on here, all right, there's also comments, right? So I can comment on here and say, this is the updated version, right? Something like that, right? I don't know, that's a totally generic comment, but you can actually comment on the content, add those comments. They're searchable and they're usable for other people's reference, right? So this starts to become a little bit more interactive, right? You could also say, don't use this chair, it's terrible, but that would be, maybe there's a better way to handle that. Manage tags, all right? For those of you who are participating in this a little bit more actively, right, we can actually add tags. So you can see there's a bunch of preset tags here that we could add to this, okay? But if you wanted to, we could also create a new tag. So we could say like that this is a particular manufacturer's chair or something, and I don't know that it is, but let's just pretend that it is. So manufacturer name, right? So whoever enter, we'll just give it a manufacturer's name, all right, and create that tag, and now that content is taggable by that. And also other content comes in and we can tag it by manufacturer, making it easier to find, easier to search, and easier for other people as well as yourselves. I'm just going to cancel that, and I'm going to unflag these things because we don't want to mess up our library. All right. You can get details on content at any time, right? So if you want to dig into something and find out more information about it, you can actually, if you really wanted to find it on the network, you could open it in Explorer right from here. It'll take you to the path where it's at and open the host family. Maybe an update needs to be made or something like that. You can edit the content, right? What needs to be updated to it. If we want to add or attach, maybe we want to attach a manufacturer's cut sheet on this or something like that. We can put that in there. All right, so there's a lot of information and a lot of things you can do interactively with the content directly in this interface. Let's talk about a feature that I'm really excited about and that we've had a lot of requests for, no pun intended, and how this works. So this is great, right? We're going live with this today. There's a bunch of content in here. We want to make it better over time. That's great, but Steve and I already know I have 3 projects that have like a ton of families in them that should just be in the library, or I use all the time, and I think other people would use them as well. How do I get those to you? Well, this request functionality is the most efficient way to do it, actually. So just come over here to requests, and we're going to make a new request, right? And you're going to tell me where it should live. Right? For the most part, everything's just going to live in content, right? This is, a little bit digging down into the weeds. But so we want it to exist in the Revit content library for everybody. So we're going to give this a new name. So want to make it easy for me to know what's going on, right, when you send me the email or when the system sends me an email. So you're going to say new content and then say, like, I don't know, maybe what it is, right? Furniture. Right. All right, you can give me some details about it. I found this online and loved it. All right, I don't know, right? Whatever. You should give it some thought, but it doesn't have to be crazy. You know, just a bit of information about this. Why we need it, why we should update it, how you're using it. Keep it simple. Don't kill yourselves. All right, priority. Do we need this right away? Like, I need this in the library because I have a team of 5 people who need access to it tomorrow. Okay, well, and it's pretty important. Put on high. Excuse me. Try that again. Sorry, I jumped out of the tab. All right, so low priority, I don't really care if this happens in 3 months from now. No big deal, just when you get to it, right? Normal priority, let's try to get this done. It's valuable. All right, so again, where you want it to go, some information about it, you know, the subject, right? Blah, 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 and its priority level. If you want to take it this far, and by no means do you have to, right? You could say, hey, this should probably be tagged with these specific tags, okay? And I'm just picking some at random, right? So this just makes my job or the Revit core committee's job easier on the back end because we can accept your suggestions. So you can make those suggestions to us right there, all right? And then you can give me the files, right? So you can attach anything, all right? So maybe you're going to send me a whole Revit file, right? So you're saying, hey, you should look at X school project and file and pull all of the furniture families out of that and look at them for inclusion in our standard library. So you can actually, you could tell me all that in the description right up. You could attach the file and good to go. I'm gonna just pick a smaller, you know, family for the sake of a conversation here. All right, and we'll just grab this guy. Actually, I'm gonna grab 4 guys. All right, so you can grab multiple, you can grab 1, whatever you want to do. All right, open those up. This actually attaches them to the file, to the email, so I know where they're at. Here's the path, right? And I know what I'm looking for. All right, and then send the request. Off it goes. What this does is it generates a request inside the system. Okay, you see it's churning a little bit because it's attaching everything. And it sends an email to the Revit Core Committee. Of course, I'm part of that group. And it lets us know that this request has been generated. All right, and so when I get that email, right, I'll click on it. There's a link. I'll come in here and I'll see all the requests that have been submitted. Okay, and I will I can at that point decide what to do with it, right? So here's all the requests, right, that have come in. And so I could say, look, this one's been done, it's completed. So I could say, hey, there's a pending request, right, that just came in from so-and-so in Charlotte, right? I can select it and I can assign it, right? This is a management thing. I can have anybody in my core committee group, right, who is who knows what's going on with this particular type of thing, work on it, right? Or of course, you know, I can assign it to myself, right? I can check it out. So I'm going to take that one. Just let you know what's happening on the back end, right? And now that's been assigned, and I can work on it. When I've finished doing whatever I need to do, all right, I can update the status as completed. And you're going to get an email letting you know that it's been finished, that I did my job, and that content's in there. Of course, if I needed more information, I might email and ask you about it and those kinds of things. but it lets me know what's going on and keeps the group active. I just want to say we want to see a lot of requests, especially initially, right? We want you guys to participate in making this system better, actively engaging. So you've got content out there, you've got projects we should look at, things like that. We want that information. Now, of course, I don't know if all 52 plus participants on the call today send 2 or 3 requests a piece in the first week. It's gonna take us a little time to muddle through all of them, but that's not a reason not to do it. And at the same time, I just want to say the more the merrier. All right, so that is a little bit about requests. All right, so just a little bit more resource information.
Steven, I got a quick question.
Yeah, jump in.
I forget if it can do this or not, but you can send in requests for content that you don't have a file for yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So how would you mean that, Ben? Sorry. Like, what would be an example of that, or did I lose you? All right, I lost Ben. So what I think Ben might be referring to is, right, I could put in a request for some content, right? Let's say, I don't know, what's a pipe fittings. Maybe you want to say something like from a particular manufacturer. So go to www.blablabla.com, right? And download, whatever, fittings or something like that. So yeah, a file does not have to be attached, right? This could be a request for information. Or for content that doesn't exist. Maybe you haven't downloaded files yet or something. So you can use this for a multitude of different things. Also, maybe you want to just say, maybe you're saying like templates, right? We want updates to our template library, and you could say, here we go. Here's a little shout out. Fix the dang north arrow, right? Boy, that thing's driving me crazy. How about you guys? We got to get that Dynamo script working. All right, so right, and you could say on the start page or something. So you can use this to request anything, and it will log the request. It can be assigned out to the group. We can develop our work. Workflow from there. Hopefully that answers the question. Okay. All right, so just want to hit really quick on the about button, right? So if you come down here to the HIVE About button, this is where you're going to learn way more than I can possibly show you, right? Access to the user guide. All right, in PDF form. Oops, lost her there. Minimize that. All right, so you have the full guide here, right? And I don't know if you wanted to look at search, right? It's hot linked, right? So the whole table of contents. You can jump to whatever you need. I want to know about tagging content, right? Here's information about tagging content. So anything you want to know is in the help file, and it's really easy to find what you need. Of course, this is a PDF too, right? So I can search for something, right? And it will walk me through that PDF for any instance of that word. So great learning, great resource. For finding information about the tool. In addition, videos. This is great, actually, fairly invaluable in my opinion. Yeah. All right, so just mute that. the whole HIVE training suite of videos from the manufacturer are right here, right? So if you're a video learner and you want to dig through this, right, it's there. I've used this quite a bit as I've been learning the tool and going through the setup process. So there's a lot here. It's YouTube. It's searchable. You can find what you need. So there's a great video archive here. We're not going to duplicate this. We're not going to put it out on our internet. You know, it's here for you to access. We may hot link to a couple like common subjects or something like that, but for the most part, you can find it all here, and it's accessible directly through the interface. Okay. If you become, you know, like you just love this thing and you've got great ideas for improvement, the company would love, not us, this CTC would love to hear from you. So request features and of course report bugs. But these two buttons are what you really care about. User guide, videos, that's where you're going to go to. That's your first point for how to do anything in this environment. Ben, before I jump off of this, if you're still there, if you still got sound, do you want to touch on the updates to the walls, wall families, and the content there?
Yeah, sure. Like you saw through the searches that Stephen was doing, we've got all of, or I'm not going to say all because there's an infinite number of walls that we could have in our template and file, but we've gone through and built most of the system families, or at least the commonly used ones. And previously also, as you mentioned, there's an update to the A400 template legend sheet that shows, it's clarified some of the naming conventions, as well as, you know, we've expanded some of the prefixes and suffixes. Yeah, if you can pull that up, that'd be great. Again, 90% of this is going to match what we've had in the past, but you know, we've clarified, if you can zoom in there, so the partition types, you know, outlined exactly what each prefix and number means. There used to be some overlap where it could be, you know, a 1 could mean a 1 5/8 or a hat channel, and you know, we've expanded that so that each type now has their own specific letter and number, as well as if you keep going down, so there's some applied finish stuff. So if you're just, you know, skimming GIP over an existing column, or tile, or you know, resilient hat channels, resilient sound channels, there's very specific things that those mean, and you know, Z-furring and everything, and those tie back to sizes of studs and things that are actually manufactured in common usage. And then the partition type suffixes, you know, we've just made this a little bit more exhaustive and a little bit more, you know, clear as to what everything means. So this all reflects the updated system families, as well as there are corresponding details, drafting view details that can be brought in for, right now I want to say it's about a third of the wall types we have. And you know, we're going to keep adding it as we get more content and, you know, wall types are used. So this is going to be, you know, right now we don't have any masonry wall standard details in there. You know, we've got some stuff in some old projects, but if you go to the content, you'll see it's in a little bit of a cleaned up format. It's a little bit more standardized. Everything's the same size. It's got, you know, origin points, so, you know, details should look and have a good graphic continuity to them.
Let's pop that open. So one thing too to note, right? We have, you know, we've outlined all this in the template, right? And it is exhaustive, like Ben said. You know, it's still on the project team, right, to go through this. And if it's not applicable to your project, right, clean this up, right? So this isn't just like placeholder stuff that should just stay around. It's for your information. It's useful, but if it doesn't apply, jettison it from your project. It's just a soft reminder. I wanted to touch on warehouses in relation to this conversation, just so you guys understand what's going on in the background and how we're starting to assemble this. And this will help illustrate what Ben was just talking about. We're setting up warehouse file projects for each discipline or discipline group. And inside of those libraries, or inside of those files is where all these different kind of systems families and things live, so that we can update them over time. So Ben was just mentioning the details, right? So is our A400 details.
If you go to the working plan view, you can kind of see everything all together.
This one and this one? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So here you can see we've kind of broken down all the system families. This is actually a floor plan with some detailed text and lines laying everything out. Everything's broken down in the same categories as they are on the A400 sheet. We've got some generic stuff, some walls that are simply single material width, so we can easily control consistency between our material standards. All the materials are actually taggable within the walls with a material tag, as well as the type mark tag. And you'll see everything here that's got a blue tag is actually a little section mark that will take you to the associated drafting view. So any of these walls that have those detail marks on them will have these associated drafting views. Anything else that doesn't, that's content we're working on creating as we need it. And like I said, you can see all those details kind of have a similar look. They've got reference planes and bounding boxes, and the nomenclature should match between, chipboard should be called out the same way as it is in the rest of the details. You may have to do some project-specific editing to some of these based on your requirements, but this at least gets us to one standard starting point. These are all everything's grouped by, stud size or, masonry size. Is pretty consistent between those boxes as to how, all of the lead line walls are grouped together, or all the tile walls are grouped together. As you move down, there's some typical storefront and curtain wall. We've got shaft wall, wood lumber walls, stuff we don't necessarily use very often, but we try to think about, using in the future, or, on specific project types. So we've got the content there for part of it, but, as we grow and as we use this stuff more and more, we'll keep adding to it. Besides the walls, you can see down there, there's typical structural floor slabs, slab on deck, slab on grade. You can't see it in this view, but if you go to the ceiling plan, there's, just, regular gyp types, acoustic ceilings, suspended and hard framed, some bulkhead stuff. And, this content will continue to grow and get added to HIVE. So you shouldn't have to come here to find this. Mm-hmm. This is just the back end of how we're organizing and storing everything.
Yeah, so again, this is background information, but I think what we want to drive home is that we want to make this better. We want more content, and we want your input. So if something doesn't exist, or something that exists isn't working correctly, we want that feedback from you. If you've put a lot of work into developing a set of content, any content, right, and it would be valuable to even a small piece of the team, we want that content. We want to include that content. So reach out. Let's make this better together. So we're coming up on the hour, and I want to be sensitive to that. Lastly, I just want to mention that at the beginning, I talked about the fact that you would be getting this project suite of tools as well. These are productivity tools that everybody can and should engage with at different levels. We are planning to have training sessions on individual tools as well as maybe groups of them, but you'll have access to them immediately and can absolutely start engaging with them right away. With that said, let's see if this will pop open. Same as the HIVE suite. you have access to the user guide for this tool set, and so you can jump in it right away. The help file, right? Online version of the how-to for this. So if there's something in here that you want to engage with and you want to use, just start exploring even without the training. But we will be scheduling those training sessions very soon. All right. Are there any questions? Anyone have something they'd like to bring up, or something for the whole group? Okay. If that's the case, I just want to thank you all for taking the time to do this today. I know it's a big deal. I hope you can jump right into this and start using it. Look for the invite email later today or tomorrow. The tools should be installed currently on your machines, and if not, they will be installed over the course of the next few days. A reminder, if you have any problems with the install, please reach out directly to Help Desk and copy in the Revit committee on those issues. Any thoughts, ideas, or input, insight that comes to you over the course of the next few days or weeks, guys, reach out. I want to hear from you. We want to hear from you, and we're looking forward to using this and making it better. So with that, I'll let you go. Thank you. Oh, and lastly, send your sign-in sheets to me, please, so I know who attended. Thanks.